Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us David Hogan, who's an entrepreneur, creator of seven-figure businesses, and author, and he's a business coach. David, welcome to the program.
Mike, hi. Thank you so much for the honor of being on your show. I'm delighted to be talking to you.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about your experience. I know that you've got some wonderful successes, and I know you also talk about resiliency and rebounding. So give us a little bit of your background, and let's talk about how you coach people to succeed in business, whether it's growing and scaling or rebounding from the tough patches.
Yes, well, I guess I'm here to help people because I've learned from the school of hard knocks, as they say. And that's probably the highest qualification any of us can get in business is through experience. And I started out, as an employee. I was in the banking sector. I live in Ireland, and I was in retail banking for many years. And then I got a bit tired of that and wanted to go on a bit of an adventure, traveled around the world a little bit, got some more experience as an employee. And then the itch to become an entrepreneur, I just couldn't ignore it anymore and decided to jump ship, left all the comfort of being an employee and all the benefits to go with that and the certainty of it. And that was back in 2002 is when I first became a self-employed person. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster since, Mike.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know 10 plus years ago when I did the same exact thing, I came out of the mortgage banking industry and started my own firm after I did my MBA. And no, it was not that hockey stick increase from day one or two. It was like one of those squiggly marks you see on Facebook where it's like the progression of success. You would like to have this steady, consistent climb up, but that's not the way that it goes, is it?
No, it isn't. And it's not to discourage people from entrepreneurship because we both know how rewarding it can be and how important it is for any economy and any country and society that you have entrepreneurs. But I guess some people may go into it, a lot of people go into being an entrepreneur blind to what it actually takes and what you may have to encounter along the way. And I certainly was in that category in that I started out in business quite green and inexperienced as to the type of skills I would need. I just had that essential ingredient that you need, which is the confidence to give it a go. But after that, I was very much learning on the job, as they say, or winging it for a while and picking it up as I went along. And if I was to, would say, summarize the first 5 or 6 years of being in business, started in late 2002 in real estate sales. Okay, so again, an industry that you'd be familiar with. And first couple of years were loss making as I built up that business. Then after, I think 3 or 4 years, I had my first break-even year. Then I had one good year. And then along came the financial crash of 2008.
Yep.
So
well, and actually we should probably call that the financial crash of 2008, 9, 10, 11, because it just kept on and on impacting our lives. It felt that way, at least for me.
Yes, and it did for me too, in that, so I didn't have a lot of a buffer to keep me going through the next tough patch because I had only one really good year. And, maybe some of that was me not being good enough at that time. And some of it was, well, you're just a victim of the circumstances around you. But regardless, we all had to get on with it. And so for the next couple of years, say from 2008 to 2010, it was like the air was being let out of the balloon slowly. And so by the time I came to 2010, I had to make that difficult but very essential realization and decision that the business that I'd set up, that I dreamed of, that I had invested everything in, money-wise and emotionally, was finished. It was gone. It was a failure. And I had to do that.
Yep. Or
And
else,
so,
or else
well,
you could have gone back to corporate America and tried. And I distinctly remember for me creating, kind of like I use a mind map, but some people would have said, "Here's a piece of paper. I'm going to draw a line down the middle and do pros and cons." But I distinctly remember sitting down, going, where should I go back to corporate America? Should I continue to have the good fight? And of course I continued on, and things have moved on, progressed, and are wonderful. Here's a question for you, because this is really important for how you work with your clients. And we're talking right now about the struggles that do happen. And we know that. But we want to eliminate the dream killers. We want to eliminate the crisis in your head. But how do you work with clients where you have this balance on the front end, while on one hand, they need to realize what can and will come up so they can be prepared, but you don't want to scare them off and say, well, it's not worth it. I'm just going to stay where I'm at in my comfort zone. What's the good balance there?
very, very good question, Mike. And I'm conscious of that too, that while my story, there's a lesson in it, it still wouldn't deter me from doing it all again or encouraging anybody else. And the reason I would say that is that anybody who is in business or aspiring to start a business, if you have a big enough why to do it, you will prevail. You will take the hits that might come. And, I also have learned from experience that if I had to seek out more help from the right corners, from the right channels, if I had to have an accountability partner to bring me back on the straight and narrow, and if I had to have the foresight to have more mentors who'd been there, done that to help me, then I probably wouldn't have suffered as much as I did. And if I was to transfer any wisdom to a client about entrepreneurship, about the business that they're in, or how to improve it, or how to stay at it, I would say ask for help from people who are better capable of doing aspects of your business than you are, and have somebody that you're accountable to that's objectively able to say, you're on the wrong road there, David. That's just not going to work for you, and pull you back in line, and you'll thank them in the long run.
Yeah, kind of like a mentor, because
Yeah.
at the beginning stages, you don't have the resources to pay people, but maybe having a mentor that is at the stage of their career to give back. You find some mentors that are just, hey, I'm at the twilight of my career. I've had wonderful success. I'm working 3 days a week because I've offloaded my day to day to, the people who run my business. I would love to take one person, two people under my arm. So is that something that you have seen or would recommend as well?
Yes, it would. And I found that in general, people who are successful in business, usually they're not successful overnight. So they've learned a few things along the way. But I find that most people are very generous with their time and input, because they love business themselves. They love what it has done for them, their family, their lifestyle, their community. And they want to encourage that. So I don't think there's ever a shortage of information and wisdom available to you if you have the presence of mind to ask for it.
Yes. And presence of mind means you need to do what I've often mentioned many times, the book by Michael Gerber. The book is leaving my mind at the moment. What's that?
Is it the E-Myth?
Yes. So take time to work on your business, not in your business. So maybe there needs to be every Friday afternoon, you knock off early and you go sit at a local Starbucks or coffee shop, and you sit down and review your goals and so whenever that is, once a month, once a week, it doesn't matter. Work on your business and say, where do I need help? And then I guess one question would be, where do you find those mentors that you can reach out to?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you said that, because I'm being coached right now by somebody who's helping me move into a new area of business, in that the business that I bounced back from my failure and created a 7-figure business remained within the property sector. It's in property development, and that business is running very well, and I can manage that part-time. And so what I've done is I've said, okay, how can I now continue to, we'll say, acquire more skills, have a new challenge, and find ways of giving back for my own good fortune. And so what I've decided to do is I've decided to transfer my business skills and offer business coaching in the way of looking at businesses from a strategic point of view and say, here's where you are at the moment. And I'd ask them 3 questions. What are you doing? What's working? And what isn't working? And an awful lot of business owners of varying degrees and scale are so busy working in the business that they don't ask those questions. And I'm actually getting help myself with my pivot into the online coaching space to keep me asking those type of questions as well. And if I can help somebody get a clarity of mind so that as they look forward into 2021 and beyond, whether it's an existing business or a new business, that the right questions are asked now, think of all the hardship and upset that you'd save yourself later.
Yeah. And I think that takes it takes effort to think about, where would I like things to change? What has worked and not worked? And if I could wave a magic wand, what would things look like? And then who can I reach out to? And there are actually some books out there. I think Kevin Harrington just came out with a book about finding mentors and being mentored. And it's a really big thing. So I kind of want to move back into what are some things that you see when those troubling hurdles come in your business? How do you handle it, work through it, and bounce back from it?
Okay. Well, people tend to make similar types of mistakes. And so whether it's starting a business or running your business, I think you need to be constantly evaluating, how is this working? What assumptions am I making? And an awful lot of the problems that you might encounter in the years ahead in any area of your life are often based on incorrect assumptions. And never more so is that evident at the moment, where businesses that would have been thriving in the last couple of years made assumptions that their market was stable, that they could continue to motor along nicely. And then we saw what happened with, the pandemic, etc. And if it wasn't the pandemic, it was going to be something else. We both know that. And an incorrect assumption and a critical error, I think, to make for the resilience of any business is to assume that you can stand still and just keep repeating the same business model. I think what I would like to do to help people and what I would offer to do is I would look at ways that they can pivot into new areas, keep what you have and find new sources of revenue stream within your business, be it more continuing to do your offline stuff, if it's that type of business, or digitizing your business and bringing it into the online space, which we both know is happening and is not going to change.
Yes. Yeah, that's really big because I feel like through the pandemic times, getting back to normal will never be the normal we used to know. It's going to be the new normal. And I feel like there's going to be some aspects that we were forced to take that we will bring with us into the new normal because they just worked. So as an example, I did some work in the legal profession, and there were a lot of attorneys that are like, take your practice virtual. Wonderful. Need to. And I know that when things open back up and people can go on back in to see their attorney and sit at the conference room table, many will want to do that. But many also will say, I sure didn't like fighting traffic, finding a place to park, paying to park, walking in, it's raining and sitting. Let's just jump on a Zoom. And I feel like there will be those aspects of virtual that are conveniences that they will still reserve and say, come on down for the in-person meetings. But also, here's an alternative if you would like to meet by Zoom. Are you seeing the same things in your work?
Yeah, I'm seeing the same things, and I think that's a good thing because, in general, it's giving people more balance. That it doesn't have to be the grind. So, before, a lot of businesses were blindly going along with a certain way of running their businesses, dragging all their employees in through rush hour traffic to all arrive at their desk at the same time. And it shouldn't have taken what's happened in 2020 to kind of get us to realize how ridiculous that is. I mean, there's much cleverer ways of doing business. And while you wouldn't abandon the face-to-face interaction, it'll just make that face-to-face contact either with a client or with your work colleagues all the sweeter when it happens, because I agree with you, Mike, there will be less of that.
Yeah.
And I think, Mike, there's opportunities in the way businesses are now adjusting. Firstly, it's like the sheep all waiting to go out the gap in the field. Nobody wants to be the first, and then all of a sudden it becomes the only thing to do, and everybody's trying to do it at the same time. And like if a person's on the online space and has any expertise to help businesses in the online space, they have abundant business going forward, because all those businesses, you just mentioned the legal profession, those people just want to get on with doing what they know best, which is help their clients, and they want somebody else to help them digitize their business and move it into the online space. So there's huge opportunities there.
Yes. Yeah, I agree 100%. So what is the best way that you work with clients? When you bring on a new client, what typically are you helping them with?
Well, I do a forensic analysis of their business. So I look at their cost base, I look at their market share, their margins, their customer type, I look at their product line, and then I ask them, where can you go from here with the business? How can you actually leverage it? How can you grow it without growing your costs? What new markets could you go into? And I'll give you a very brief example. In my hometown, there is a hot yoga studio. And that hot yoga studio I used to love going there before the pandemic, because it was a great outlet. It was a great sense of community there. I met friends there, and it was great exercise. And unfortunately for that business owner, her business has only been able to open for 2 days in the last 12 months because of the pandemic. Now, Can you imagine the effect that's having on that person, on her mentality, on all her dreams and all the energy she's put into it? So what I'm working with her to do is finding ways to keep that business going when she's allowed to open it up again, but also make it more resilient for other downturns, other changes in circumstances that could be foisted upon us very quickly. And the way to do that in her case would be to look at, well, what other products and services are my clients, what do they want, what do they need? And if a person's a yoga person, they're generally into their health, their body, their well-being. So I'm encouraging her to develop a line of products that she can sell online, on her website, on her existing business website, that complement the hot yoga service that she provides. And there's a scale you can do on that. You could start with, we'll say, consumer type products, like yoga mats, yoga towels, all of that type of thing. And then you can progress up along the line to, yoga courses online or in person when that's allowed. Up as far as the higher end of the value ladder, yoga retreats, bring them away somewhere, give them a week away, add in meditation, etc. Do you understand how you could do that?
Yeah, exactly. That's a really, really good point. I think we could pick, we picked the yoga, or you touched on the yoga sector, you touched on the legal sector. We could pick examples from any sector out there and say, here's some great tips, and here's some ways that you could. So I would ask you, let's wrap up with this. If anyone is interested in learning more about how you could potentially help them in their business, what's the best way that they could reach out and connect with you?
Okay, well, thank you, Mike. Firstly, if people are interested in my backstory, I've published my first book, Reboundability, Turning a Crisis into an Opportunity, and that's available on Amazon as either a paperback or the Kindle version. So that's the first thing. If you wanted to know the lessons I learned, the skills I developed to go from complete business failure at age 45 to bouncing back to build a 7-figure business in less than 5 years, and how that happened, why that happened, both the good and the bad, that would be a good starting point. And other than that, if people want to get onto my website, www.davidhogan.com, There's a hyphen in the middle because unfortunately the full David Hogan isn't available, but david-hogan.com. And there's more details in there, and there'll be free resources in there for anybody who contacts me.
Excellent. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really a pleasure talking with you.
And vice versa, Mike. I really appreciate the opportunity. You're doing a fantastic job with your podcast. I had the opportunity to listen just to the last 4 episodes of your podcast, and it was such amazing, good training in there. I really enjoyed it. So well done.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.